Welcome back. They set out to investigate allegations of racism and homophobia in some British mosques, but they ended up being investigated themselves. The filmmakers behind a documentary called Undercover Mosque, broadcast in the UK last year, made some secret recordings of extremist preachers in the UK. However, when the British police were called in to see if the people in the film had broken any laws, it was the filmmakers who fell under the spotlight instead. Now the police have been forced to admit they were wrong, and they've paid libel damages. The Listening Post's Sinead O'Shea now on a case that raises important questions about the relationship between the media and Muslims in Britain.
Tonight on Dispatches, an ideology of bigotry and intolerance spreading through Britain, with its roots in Saudi Arabia.
Undercover Mosque is a documentary made by a UK production company called Hard Cash Productions that was broadcast on the UK's Channel 4 in January 2007.
We Muslims have been ordered to do brainwashing.
On women's rights.
Allah created the woman efficient.
If she doesn't wear hijab, we hit her.
The film was shot by an undercover reporter in several mosques in the Midland city of Birmingham, which is a large Muslim population. Much of the footage used was filmed at the Green Lane Mosque, a long-established mosque at Smallheath, a Birmingham suburb.
Take the homosexual man and throw him off the mountain.
The documentary caused shock and outrage because some of the footage contained incitements to violence which broke UK law.
We want to do away with the man-made laws.
The film provided hard evidence that some imams were preaching intolerance. The police started to investigate the people who had been filmed.
You have to live like a state within a state till you take one.
But then the story took an unexpected twist. The West Midlands Police and the Crown Prosecution Service accused the TV channel who broadcast the documentary of trying to incite racism and of damaging community cohesion. The filmmakers were accused of selective editing, of manipulating what had been said in the mosque.
They were very selective. They chose things they liked. It was a cut and paste job. It did not show us what other issues were discussed in the mosque. It was a very frightening to the general British public.
They accused the programme of damaging community cohesion in the West Midlands. By that, I think what they meant was that by showing preachers being homophobic, being misogynistic, preachers who were advocating the beating of children of 10 if they didn't wear the hijab.
It wasn't abuse or exploitation, it was marriage.
That by broadcasting what was actually being said in mosques, this was somehow going to cause trouble. Well, I suspect it was going to cause trouble, but I think it's important that people know what's going on. I think it's important that people know what's actually being said.
Still, the controversy continues, with many wondering why the police were so determined to prosecute. Others see it as yet more evidence that the Muslim community has been marginalised and unfairly treated by the media. In the aftermath of events such as 2005 7/7 bombings in London, which was carried out by British Muslims, and a number of other high-profile arrests and incidents, relations between Britain and its Muslim population have been tense.
They never show, the media, it never shows Muslims doing something right.
Well, I honestly can't think of anything at the moment offhand that portrays Muslim people in good light.
Every time there's a stabbing or someone died or like around the low Asian areas, they always mention it.
Muslim community is here and is thriving, but for the time being, as other community has been before us, we are a bogeyman.
So was the Undercover Mosque film also guilty of misrepresenting the British Muslim population?
The Muslims under siege in Britain, come on, be real. We've given the Saudis a free ride in our mosques, we've given certain extremists a free ride in our university campuses and prayer halls. Muslim leadership could have, over the last 4 decades, challenged this. It's their failure that has resulted in an external film production company to have to go in and to expose what were and what remain facts.
If there's an extremist view, it's better that this extremist view is discussed and deliberated in public, in the mosque, than being driven underground.
Azam Tamimi says that Channel 4 did behave unethically and that the media should recognise that what happens inside a mosque is private.
Some of what we say, understandably, will offend some people, but we have the right within our own group to say what we like.
A mosque is a public place. Many of these mosques are government-funded institutions.
We have the right to privacy, both as individuals as well as communities. And to send an undercover reporter with a hidden camera and then report to the general public what people in their privacy are saying or doing is totally unacceptable.
You, Mr. Tamimi, and others have your private public discourse. You condemn violence in some parts of the world, you don't in other parts of the world. So, you know, turn that on yourselves and make a change.
The programme was also referred to the UK's broadcasting regulator, Ofcom. It concluded that the broadcaster had accurately represented the material it had gathered and dealt with the subject matter responsibly and in context. Hard Cash Productions, backed by Channel 4, then launched a libel action against the Crown Prosecution Service and the West Midlands Police. In May 2008, the case was heard by the High Court, and the two were forced to apologise to Channel 4 and Hard Cash Productions and pay £100,000 in compensation. We asked the West Midlands Police and the Crown Prosecution Service for their reaction to this case, but they refused to speak with us. In the Green Lane Mosque, however, a number of the same clerics featured in the documentary continue to preach there. Questions remain on both sides on what has been an unprecedented incident in British broadcasting history.
You can argue legally that something is right or wrong, but that's different from morally. I'm judging Channel 4 here morally. I think what they have done is utterly immoral.
It's about time Muslims got used to the fact that these are not outside production companies. We're all part of the same community, the same country, and we ought to try and live together.
I think the whole thing's been a very sorry episode, and it doesn't reflect well on the police or the Crown Prosecution Service. People were genuinely shocked. The public was genuinely shocked.
The hero of Islam is the one who separated his head from his shoulders.
I just think, as a journalist, you have to tell people what's going on. Not what they tell you is going on, but actually what is going on.
More Global Village Voices now on Britain, Islam, and the media.
What the crisis of this documentary revealed was the challenge for the media between genuine investigative journalism into the extremism that does exist in Muslim communities around Britain, against a fear amongst British Muslims that the media in general is out to get them, to stereotype them as violent, radical extremists. And this is going to be a challenge that will continue for some time for all journalists.
The Channel 4 documentary Undercover Mosque last year painted a distorted and grotesque image of Islam and Muslims in the UK. And the question which many people at the time asked was, why did the programme just focus on some of the small problems that may have arisen in some parts of the country? Why didn't they talk about the positive contribution the mosques were making? How mosques were working very hard to tackle issues of extremism and terrorism. How mosques are working very hard to tackle deprivation and to lift people up from poverty and lift up standards. And how much value Islam was bringing to the lives of Muslims and the wider society in the UK. It is very clear now that that programme had an agenda which was to demonise and attack Islam.
Finally, it's an Olympic year, and for some athletes, the competition for attention is already underway long before the Games begin. British gymnast Damien Walters has put some of his best moves up on YouTube, where he's been attracting a lot of hits. And some of the most interesting stuff doesn't happen in the gym, it's out on the street. The French invented this style of urban tumbling. They call it parkour. We call it par for the course as our internet video of the week. We'll see you next time at The Listening Post.